Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists.
It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hi, everybody. This is Robin Grubel, and I am here with Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And Crystal Wing.
How you doing?
And one of the things that happens is we go through and we do these podcasts, right? And between podcasts, we end up having all sorts of discussions. And not too long ago, I did a webinar and I talked about the 5 Ds of detection work because I saw a really interesting presentation by Jeff Meyer, who works with HITS Canine Training. And he talked about adding diversion in to the rest of the 4 Ds. So we've been tossing this around a little bit and thought we would share our discussion with all of you. And so if we start thinking about what the 4 Ds that are commonly taught for detection work, right? We have distractions, distance, difficulty, and duration. And so then the 5th D would be diversion. And so I like the whole concept of adding diversion in. And so if we define a diversion, according to Jeff, a diversion is a distraction with intent. So you are absolutely positively placing stuff out in the area that you're searching that is meant to divert your dog from doing what they're supposed to be doing. And one of my most personal, I have a couple of them, right? Situations where this happened is I was doing training with my dog and somebody had placed a baked potato out in a hay barn.
On purpose?
Right? On purpose. It was a distraction.
Oh, I'm like,
they can't see your air quotes.
I know they can't see my air quotes.
It was very exaggerated.
Right. It was very, well, but think about it. So we're in a hay barn, right?
Yeah, there's always baked potatoes in hay barns. That was kind of my point. I'm like,
there's things like donkey poop and horse poop and
my favorite
dead critters of all sorts of nature, right? Because it's a hay barn. Plus, I'm sure animal feces like raccoons and that sort of stuff. And then there's this weird baked potato.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of this hay barn. And my dog is like, dude, that's weird.
That's
that
weird.
Doesn't belong here. In the kitchen, in the house, great. But in a hay barn, no.
Right. I'm wondering if we should rewind a little bit. Not actually, because, we've got the whole podcast thing. But maybe we should tell people who may not be familiar with even the 4 Ds, what do we use these for? Right?
Yes.
I have been all about the Ds lately. I love the Ds. And by the way, I am all in on 5 of them. I know. We're going to have
a couple of years ago, there were only 3.
Yeah,
difficulty has just been added in the last year.
It's population explosion. It's just got
we're all communicating better.
Okay, but also, Stacy, don't you have the 4 points of a pyramid or something?
There's only 3 points on a pyramid, but
So of course you like 5
I have the 4
Ds.
cornerstones. But you name stuff and it's really hard to get rid of. So we could call it the 3 Ds and still have 5 of them. I don't really care about that, but I love having the 5 Ds. So Robin, so just to kind of educate folks who may be like, what D? What's so great about the letter D? Is this, assessment brought to you by the letter D and the number 5.
I use the Ds as a way to think about shifting my criteria, right?
Yep.
And so when I really start thinking about training a behavior, the first thing that I want to add for my D's, I have like a little hierarchy of my D's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my first hierarchy is actually distraction. If I really wanted to be complicated, I'd add a sixth D.
Of course you would.
Could do this, Oh, if I came up with a D, maybe we're thinking the same D.
Wait. At count of three, say it. 1, 2, 3.
Discrimination.
Dang. Right?
Yes.
Whoa. One brain, two people.
I
And
know.
the mic is dropped.
I would have to just like fist bump you right now.
I know. Right.
That's a long distance fist bump right there, baby.
It is. So
Brilliance. Just
right. And so
Yeah.
because if we start thinking about it through all of these different adjusting our criteria, I think of distraction as bridges.
okay.
This is the stuff that the dog understands its behavior, it does its behavior, and the distraction or becomes part of the bridge to tell the dog that that's the behavior I want you to do.
So it's clarity.
It's
about the
clarity.
Right.
It might also, because we don't work in a lab. We work in environments, where I'm even with the young dogs, there's residual treat smell on the ground. There's all sorts of other stuff. Those are distractions that are part of the natural environment that I haven't gone out and purposely placed.
Right.
So when a distraction, right? Then I start.
You said bridge. You got to tell me
I did
bridge.
say bridge.
You can't just leave that hanging. I know you're on a roll.
Okay. So in the literature, a bridge happens between, and we'll put this in the show notes, the citing for this, right? The bridge is actually a kind of like a keep going signal. So the animal has done its sit and stare. In my world, that's what I use, right? So sit and stare, train final response. It's the petting, it's the pulling on the leash, it's the singing of the national anthem or Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or petting, or all of those things that happen between when it does its train final response and when the conditioned reinforcer is given. So your click or your yes or whatever. And that is a bridge.
Yep.
Keep going signal.
So you
Yeah.
dancing around or you pulling on the leash, those are the things that are distracting, but it's distracting coming from you, which is telling the dog, I'm going to do these weird things. Keep doing what you're doing.
Right. Which totally in my world helps with them not paying attention to the handler, because really what they think is that if the handler does more stupid stuff, that means I'm right.
So it's creating that commitment to odor.
It's creating commitment to the behavior that they're doing. So let's think about
Right,
it this
regardless
way.
of whether or not they're correct.
Right.
So-
And that's the problem with not using your bridges correctly.
Right.
So think about it this way. I don't know, when you study or you do something, sometimes you put on the TV in the background or music in the background. And what that music actually helps you do is concentrate harder on the thing that you're supposed to be focused on.
So
Or it
the reason
becomes
why
white
when I
noise.
put El King on, when I listen and I cook, my food
Right.
is better.
Okay. So, right. Because you might, I don't really.
Okay, that was the best answer from Robin. I don't know how to answer that. Okay. Good for you,
Sure.
Stacy.
I'm sorry, my brain goes
fun
in 12
fact.
directions sometimes.
Thanks for the share.
Right.
You guys love
Maybe that works. I don't know. Puts you in the mood. So that's what the bridge, because when you're teaching to really, really hone a particular behavior, you're telling the dog by giving it something else to concentrate against that, yes, this is correct. So that's in the literature. That's what a bridge is.
Okay.
That's
So
how
going
I
back
meant
to the D's, like now that
that's
we
your
have
distraction.
6 D's. Now we have 6 D's because they're multiplying. They're like rabbits.
right. So we've got 6.
We started with 3. We thought there were going to be 5 for this podcast, and now we have 6.
Okay.
Now
But
we have
Robin
six.
defined distraction. So do you want to define the next one?
Yes. So I'm defining distraction.
You just defined that
Before
one.
that, we're just
yeah.
the purpose, right? The purpose of the D, so that
Oh, the
we
purpose
talked
of the
about-
D's is a mental construct for us to be able to think about shifting criteria.
right. And so for me, the reason why I use the D's is because we have this thing called detection, which is, I know that's a D, but it's not another D. Searching.
Oh, go ahead. Add another D. Let's go for it.
Well, it's like, how about the six
another
D's of detection? There you go.
6 D's of detection.
Oh,
Exactly.
jeez.
So, but actually it works. But I use it because it's so easy to lump when you train in this
Yes.
activity, sport, whatever you want to call it, right? It's because we set a hide and we're like, "Whoa, that's a cool hide," and then we just let the dog do their thing. That
Let's
is
see
so
how that's going to work.
right. And you know what happens when you have random when you train randomly, you get random results, right? So when we start thinking about this is the way I use it is I use it as a way to split how I train so that I'm not lumping everything. It's so easy to just set up, oh, that's a cool hide. That's a cool hide. That's a cool hide. Next thing you know, it's a train wreck. So by breaking it down into the D's, that's a way to kind of raise criteria and to help your dog split out those behaviors to really create that fluency, which is that F word that we talked about earlier.
Right. And
The one time we can say an F word on the podcast.
That's right.
right.
For
Not get in
fluency.
trouble
Yeah, for
or have to-
fluency, right?
yeah.
So I'm
And-
going to add to that. I'm just going to use the word generalize.
Yes.
G.
I
But,
mean,
okay.
all the D's make the G's
Happen.
when you're talking about the F word. Follow that.
No kidding. Well, because remember, we're talking about the human end of the leash. And I actually go through themes in my training where I'm like, oh, this week I'm working on distractions, or this session I'm working on distractions, or this session I'm working on distance. And it may not even be this session. It may be this repetition,
Right.
right?
The repetition. And then you start thinking about how do you combine those when you start to raise that, right? So now you have
Right.
distraction plus a little duration, which is a lot harder. Or you may decide to reduce difficulty so that they can do the distraction plus the duration.
Correct.
It's amazing stuff.
I know. And it's this whole iteration thing
Yeah.
that sometimes, especially when your dog is really starting to put all of the puzzle pieces together, you can go from, I really need you to do this with very little duration, but we have a ton of distraction, and the distance, I'm actually fairly close, but this is going to be a really difficult hide.
Yeah.
And then you can see the dog go through that whole generalization process really, really fast. Because, when you're out searching in a
Hay barn
barn,
with the potato.
any of the places where search dogs go search, how about music festivals?
Yeah. Oh,
Right? Music festivals, you cannot believe how much food people drop on the ground at music festivals.
wow.
And so,
Yeah.
that's all, those aren't placed. Those are part of the natural environment. So technically they're distractions.
So I would like to kind of talk about this briefly in terms of competition nosework, right? So, and I know Crystal is cringing with the distinction.
Oh, geez. Another D.
Right?
Thanks.
The
You're just rubbing it in.
between distraction and diversion. However, we're thinking about competition detection, right? We have these two are separate. So we deal a lot with distraction. And the distraction is the unintentional, right? So when we are, searching in a completely novel environment, as the dog starts to move up the levels, there is in competition detection, right? There is zero expectation of a pristine environment. And I'm thinking back to some of the searches that I did at, oh gosh, I remember when Judd did it was his second summit trial, and we were at this fairgrounds that literally they had a fair the week before. So it's kind of like your music festival kind of idea, right? So we go in, and then one of the search areas is a kitchen at this fairgrounds. And let me tell you, after this, I will never, ever eat fair food, ever, ever. This kitchen was disgusting. We had rancid grease. I think one of the dogs picked up something that the handler didn't know what it was, took it out of the dog's mouth. It was like a sandwich. I mean, it was like crazy.
Ew.
So that's distraction, but that's at the summit level. And, so it's different, but we have to be able to deal with that. But then the diversion is something that we generally see with the NACSW. We see that only in containers because we put things in the containers, right? Which is more of the discrimination aspect of it, right? So diversion and discrimination, I think, are very closely tied. In AKC, we might have the diversion within the search environment. So we may have, hidden food, toys, that sort of thing. So that is a very real part of competition detection. So that's why I'm all over the split. I think that's really awesome. And I love the discrimination aspect of it too. The 6D, because honestly, I think it creates clarity. And I think that's a foundational component of teaching the dog how to work and how to really understand that target odor.
Well, and for me, the discrimination aspect actually that's the very first D.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
It's the very first D, because in my world, we're starting with boxes. We're starting with the scent wheels.
Yeah.
All those sorts of things. And when you're starting to try and tease out for your bomb dogs, hey, no, you're not supposed to be alerting on the plastic that
Right.
all of the explosives comes packaged in. Your det cord comes in plastic. So you put command strips and plastic tubing in a different box. So they're starting to really parse out RDX, which has a headspace of like 438 or something. So that is what I'm really truly alerting on. It's the whole concept of not just the jar or not just the box is important. It's the odor that's in the box.
Right.
Is what actually is important. So that's actually like my first D.
Yep.
Odor's the most important thing.
So that's not my first D, because at first I just want them to really understand how to go toward target odor. Then at that point, I start to build in that discrimination, because for me, the discrimination is it birch or is it potato chip? So what we don't need to get into from a competition perspective is it birch or is it Q-tip? Right? We don't have to get to that level of slicing and dicing. I mean, is it kind of cool if we could? Yeah, but is it?
Do you need to?
No, not
right. Yeah. Can you versus should you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Like it'd be kind of cool. I'm all for cool training. Like just do something because it's cool. That I'm totally okay with that. But it's unnecessary. So for me as a competition trainer, the discrimination comes a little bit later,
Yeah.
But it's definitely there. Like if I'm doing containers, yeah, we are doing a lot of discrimination, because we also get dog drool. So here we are in a competition perspective where you have the same hide and you may have 40 dogs working that same scenario, the same search area. And those dogs come in and maybe they false alert in another area. They're like, hey, I think there's a hide here. And you get all those happy pheromones, right? And then what you find is that dogs come after that and they hit on the same spot. So if we can build in the discrimination aspect, I'm not saying it's the first thing, but early in. And
it's early in the whole chain.
Exactly. Right. It's early in that the dog can come in and go, oh, those are happy pheromones, but that dog's wrong. Because they're not right. They're not catching. They don't understand, or they understand that that's not target odor. Right. I think helps you to get through that.
Okay. So we've
added a D.
We've added a D. So we kind of defined distraction.
Okay. One more time. Define distraction for me again.
Distraction is anything that is already in the environment.
Nope. I need something to understand what distraction means. So
it's unintentional, an unintentional component of the environment that takes your dog's focus away from target odor.
Okay, thank you.
Potentially.
And it can also be distraction, can also be the handler themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Intentional or unintentional in that point?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think it's unintentional, right? But for me, that's what distraction, the handler is a distraction because the handler's already in the environment or should be in the environment.
Right. And I want to add to that. It does not necessarily mean something that the dog desires. And I don't intentionally use the letter D for that. But a lot of times we think about distraction. I know, right? I did that on purpose, honestly. But Crystal's going to I'm going to poke your eyes out with an iPhone.
I'm going to go for a walk. The dog just went crazy.
It doesn't necessarily mean that the dog desires it. So for instance,
it's a novel odor.
It's a novel odor, or it's something that happens in the environment that's actually a disruption. She's going to hate me after this one. It's a disruption. So, for instance, I
thought we'd make it further in this whole podcast thing before I would walk out. I made it 1 month.
So think of it this way. So if we're doing, competition detect, we're doing a nose work competition, and, we're in our search area, and off in the distance, we hear gunshots. We do that. Sometimes there's nearby firing ranges or something. I was searching with Y on a vehicle search, and I swear to you, a rooster crowed every time he wanted to sniff a vehicle, every single time. That's a disruption that also works. That's kind of in the distraction realm, right?
Yes. Well, because it's environmental.
Right. It's not something that necessarily the dog desires. Everything starts with a D. Not necessarily something that the dog desires, but it is still a disruption. And I consider that kind of like that unintentional distraction.
So according to Jeff, right? Because I have his presentation pulled up because this is who I am, right?
Of course, we've added to it like several Ds. It's now the 12 Ds.
Yeah.
So distraction situation.
Yeah, distractions can be anything found in the area, such as smells, noises, or environment. So for me, the rooster crowing, right, is an environment, a donkey braying, those sorts of things. Stuff that's going to happen in the natural environment that you're in. Dead mice everywhere, right? Yep. So then when I start thinking, so we've identified or defined distraction, we've defined discrimination.
Yep.
When we start thinking about distance in my world is how far away am I from my dog?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Like it's the independence aspect, right? Can the dog work away from the handler?
Right.
And continue to seek out that odor. Right.
And or out of sight, whatever.
And on the same thing, some dogs can't handle the pressure of the handler being right there. So that might be harder for some dogs.
Yeah.
Right.
So I consider dogs to be kind of Goldilocks. Like dogs are the Goldilocks of the animal kingdom. So it's like they don't necessarily want you to be too close. They don't want you to be too far away. They have kind of the sweet spot, right?
Just right.
Exactly. They are all about Goldilocks. So you kind of want but some dogs have a very large Goldilocks. Like they're okay with you kind of like, you're within a quarter of a mile. Okay, well, that's cool. And some dogs are like, you're 15 feet away. That's just way too far for me. So
they have a bubble.
They do have a bubble.
Right. Okay. So that's distance. So we're all on the same page for that one.
Yep.
Duration can be either how long you're hunting, right? Or in my world, how long do you have to hold your trained final response until released?
Yep.
So that's kind of the duration piece.
Yep.
And then we've got difficulty. And I think about difficulty, everything from what do you have to navigate or work around in order to locate odor. Okay. It might also be a threshold issue. Is it light odor? Is it a lot of odor? All of those sorts of things that kind of meld into that difficulty portion.
Yeah, so it could be complicated airflow, or maybe you have some thermals, or maybe you have a lot of wind or not enough wind,
or they have to jump up on shopping carts in order to get to odor, all that sort of stuff.
Done that. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because the dog thought that was the fastest way to get there.
She was correct.
Yes. In her little world. Yes. And so then and one of the reasons I really started thinking about this is because as we're going through and writing certifications, right, and doing certification stuff,
yep,
there is a lot of discussion about placing distractions, and you can't see the air quotes, but they're distractions. And so you're talking about people going and picking up roadkill and putting roadkill out in a search area.
Okay.
So that the cadaver dogs have to work over the top of the roadkill, right?
So is that discrimination, or
they're doing a discrimination component?
Right. It's like, is it human? Is it raccoon? I don't know. Right.
And so, but then you have this whole interesting concept that goes along with it.
Or is it dinner?
It might, depending on the dog, it might be dinner.
Wah, wah, another D.
I know.
I'm glad you guys think it's funny.
I'm completely deranged.
Oh, come on. I can't believe I have to deal with you guys.
Oh, gosh.
You're really putting a damper on my mood.
Oh my. And the first thing that comes to my mind is a swear word, but I can't say that. Oh, I had the same thought.
We're
You're just a couple demons.
That's us.
Yeah.
So then I started really thinking about the whole, my baked potato episode.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, then you have these people picking up roadkill and putting roadkill out.
Yeah.
And unless you're really, really careful about how you pick up your roadkill, you are also going to put your odor all over the roadkill.
True.
Right? Because it's not part of the natural environment.
Yep.
When you're actually out on a deployment, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So then that actually becomes a diversion.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm also thinking, like, listening to you, and I'm thinking back to Prize did her NW2 last fall. And during the container search, because we do intentional distractions or diversions, right? We do intentional things in the containers. And in NW2, you always have non-target odor also in the containers because they're testing that. And she did great. She did super, right?
So when you say non-target odor,
right?
Is that like random other stuff?
Food or toys. So they
food
put
or toys.
Or toys also in the containers in NW2. Now, Prize did great. She ended up overall pronounced. I was super proud of her. But what was interesting is going back to the container search, there was one container that took out a lot of teams. And interestingly, this goes back to your idea of the baked potato, right? It was a single cashew. It was a single cashew. Not a handful of cashews. It was a single cashew. Which is interesting because the dog, maybe you've trained this and it's always like, well, this is a bunch of food. That's a bunch of food. I'm going to ignore that. But that one cashew, it's like that piece of kibble that goes under your refrigerator that your dog obsesses over.
Right. Well, and here's one of the things that I would be really interested in. So, because, this is something that I've seen is that the dogs, because I tend to hide my narcotics odor, my explosives odor, and my cadaver odor, right? Yes, they all are transported in 3 layers of containment.
Yeah.
Several
well, my dogs have actually searched around your odors, which was awesome. Right.
Yeah. And so then the question starts becoming, is your dog alerting to the right odor, or is it just alerting to the most potent odor in the area?
Right. which was great
It's-
that I had my odors out with your odors because my odors
Absolutely.
are definitely the most potent
Wait,
odors out there.
So here's one of my questions for diversions in the nose work world. Do you guys have the requirement that you can't put any other type of, can you put out lavender?
What we don't do is put out other essential oils. And I can say that as like, I'm an AKC scent work judge, but I compete heavily in NACSW. And as somebody with a chemistry background, right? I'm a chemical engineer by education.
Actual training.
Yeah, but although, it's no, I use it for good, not evil, right? I use it for nose work. From a chemical perspective, there is no way I would put another essential oil out there for the dogs because we don't actually know what part of that essential oil that the dogs are keyed into. And an essential oil is actually a mixture. We like to think of it as something that's pure. It's not. It is a true mixture. So we don't really know what the dog is indicating on. And I'm not going to put another essential oil out there because we have found that dogs will generalize essential oils. And they'll be like, well, that's an essential oil. That's an essential oil.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that makes total sense.
Yeah, I want to do that. But we do have other things that the dog has to discriminate against, right? But I would be careful in terms of what I put out there. I'm not going to put another essential oil out there. That would just be that would be.
And so it's been interesting for me to go through and think about, am I setting out diversions or am I just letting the distraction go? And it's also helped me actually be, or both.
Right.
And it's actually helped me be a little bit more precise in my hides.
Yep.
And the cleansing of my training materials.
Yep. So can I tell a story?
Yes.
About what I did today?
Yes.
I want to tell you a story about what I did today because it has to do with the 12 Ds, right? It has to do with all the Ds. So I'm preparing for Brava's got this, her final elite trial coming up, right? She's going to champion out. She needs 27 points or whatever. And I don't want her to stink, right? So we have to knock the rust off a little bit. We haven't searched very much recently. I'm down in Florida. We've been doing other stuff. So I took her out searching and the first search, I set it up in, because, she has an issue with, from a distraction perspective, right? She has an issue with dog pee and food on the ground. So I went to the local park and I set 3 hides that were totally within her wheelhouse. So the difficulty was low, right?
Right.
But the distraction was high. And the result was dismal. It was dismal.
Disastrous.
It was disastrous. Well, maybe not disastrous. It was more dismal because disaster just has a different intonation. Poor Crystal. It was dismal. So the distraction level was way in excess of what she could really, cope with. So what I did, and this is how I use those Ds, how many ever Ds you want. At this point, I've lost count. What I did was I said, you know what? I can't work in this environment and have her be successful. I don't want to have conflict with her. So I put her back in the van. I'm like, all right, I'm going to really focus on you. I mean, everybody else did fine with those searches, but she was like, oh, there's dog pee in those bushes. Like, right. Want to go over there. So I put her back in the van and I drove a half a mile away to the Home Depot. Now there, they have these really fantastic, like a rental equipment. They've got the sheds and everything, which would be very distracting to some dogs, not to my girl. But there was no dog pee and there was no food on the ground. Right. And then what I did was then I increased my reinforcer. I brought out cod skins, which she says are amazing. Now hot dogs, she loses her mind over. We can't deal with hot dogs, but cod skins. And I brought her out, I put out like 3 hides. They were complicated so that the difficulty was fairly high, but well within her wheelhouse. And I rewarded her with these cod skins. But because I had reduced the distraction level, her success was so much higher that on the 4th search, she was killing it. She was absolutely killing it. So then my next step would then be to take that and start to increase the distraction level.
Right.
Right. So I can increase her commitment to odor in a lower distraction environment. And then I can go ahead and increase the distraction level. And the cod skins are definitely the key for her. We call it fishy fishy. She responds to fishy fishy. What's a fishy fishy? Yes, I do. So that's my story of using the D's today.
Right.
Yeah. I don't even know why I put that in there, but honestly,
Well, it's how you were going through the decision-making process,
yes,
right? On how to adjust all of the D's that's going on when you're training your dog.
Yes.
And we were actually out doing school searches today. And
looking for drugs?
Yes. With hundreds.
This show is brought to you by the letter D on the number 12.
With hundreds of backpacks.
Yep.
And it was interesting. We're going through and I'm watching my dog search and the law enforcement dog search, and everybody did awesome. And we're coming back and I see Ember slow down.
Uh-oh.
And I look and I'm like, oh my God, there's wrappers. I mean, can you imagine the smells and these kids' book bags, right? No. And she's going along, she's sniffing really good. And then she comes down and she's like, oh, peanut butter crackers. And she stops and she sniffs it a little bit. And then she's like, nope, that's it. We're moving on along. And unless I had actually spent the time working on, distractions of walking through a movie theater with popcorn all over the ground and things of that nature, right. How it just is an added thing. We're still at 60s.
Are we okay? Yeah. So we added in discrimination. We've just been like peppering, and we've been killing Crystal with all of our D's.
Right. And so we're actually at 6.
We're gonna have to figure out what do we name this podcast?
I did not.
5 or 6 D's.
Well, we'll talk. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I'm still at 4, so y'all keep adding.
Okay, so why are you still at 4?
Yes.
I don't like to overcomplicate my thoughts. And for some people, adding more D's adds clarity.
It's distracting. Sorry.
And instead of clarity, we'll call it clarity. There's a dad joke for you.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
I'm here all day, friends. So here's my thing. Okay, I'm thinking about what does the handler ultimately have control of in a training environment. I can take the initial 5 Ds and I can say that we can control all 5 of those. Would you agree with that?
So when you say 5, are you talking...
the ones that the rest of the world knows, and they don't have this discrimination thing that you just added.
Oh, the discrimination. So the 5.
So we got you up to 5.
No. I'm going to take you back down to 4 in a second. But
So the 5 Ds. So to a certain extent, yes, because we're going to say
duration. You've said that duration is hunt, but it's also the train final response. Those are things that we are in control of. Is that true? That's the only one that kind of throws me off from this thought process.
Yes. I can control how long the dog, theoretically, I can control how long the dog has to hunt,
right?
Search before it runs into target odor.
Right.
It goes into the locate portion.
The size of the search area and the direction.
We control difficulty because we can manage our environments. We can
place
there's
the
a lot of things
hides.
we can do. Yeah.
Right.
We can control distance. We can control distractions.
We can predict, right? We can predict.
Right. But if I'm talking like I could be in my little laboratory, and then if I want to start adding distractions, that's something that can happen.
So we can respond. So we go back to my story about Brava, right? And the park with the dog pee and the food and that pavilion was just way too much for her. So I moved her to Home Depot. Right, so that is something where we can, even the unintentional, we can put the dog into a different environment that we can predict has a lower potentially unintentional distraction.
So we still control that. And so
We still
diversions,
control
we also control.
Diversions.
How do
also-
we control discrimination?
That has to do with the dog really understanding the clarity. Discrimination is related to clarity. So if we say, so for instance, I'll use an example, right? When I train my dogs, on containers, and I'm actually teaching like a 6-week course on containers right now, which is crazy, but 6 weeks of containers. So what I try to do to teach my dogs the discrimination aspect is that it's not just a, candy bar over there or peanut butter over there. Every single container has something in it, which could be food, toys, or something else. And one of the containers has target odor. So it becomes a discrimination of it's this, not this.
Discrimination is
Yeah.
recognizing differences.
Right.
So I
Yes.
guess in this list of D's, I think about all the other ones are things that we are changing, we are altering. We don't alter their discrimination. So discrimination is like how they use the tools that we are providing.
But we can add that aspect into our search on purpose.
But it's like a skill. Where to me, discrimination is a skill, and the other ones are not skills. They are more things that we help the dog to generalize. So that's why I don't feel like that D fits in this discussion for generalizing.
Correct. I would agree with that because discrimination is actually the first thing that I teach. This.
Because then if I was going to say that, well, then I would add down, because that's another D that I teach. It's another skill, right? And so you could start adding all these skills in and all these other things. But for me, this D list that we have is about helping our dog generalize once we have, so once we have our skills, these D's are what we take with us to then generalize all of the skills that we teach, the behaviors that we teach.
I don't disagree.
Oh, correct. Of course you had to say, don't disagree.
Don't disagree.
How many more D's can you get?
I'm here all night. I don't disagree. However, what I consider it as is a lever that, or a component of the search that I can introduce that actually increases the difficulty. So if I have like a container search, and I'm trying to, I'm trying to go into a novel environment. So so I'm trying to generalize. I'm trying to actually, now I've done all this work at home. I've got the discrimination at home. The dog's doing great. They've got a lot of great, they've really great clarity there. Now I'm going to go into a novel environment, which increases the distraction level, right? So what I would do there is maybe not introduce the discrimination component into that search at that time until they're successful without worrying about discrimination. Then I would add in the discrimination component.
But that's kind of like me saying I'm not going to add my trained funnel response in. It's just taking one of the skills out of the. So that's where I feel like it's still a skill, and why I wouldn't put it in the D list. So that's my argument.
I mean, it's a relevant argument. I'm just, I like 6. 6 is a nice number.
So now if I take us back to 5
work better.
So
but
you asked
if we push 6, we'll get her to 5.
Okay, no, I'm going to keep taking you down. So now I'm at 5. Okay, so I knocked discrimination off of this list. Do I feel like it's a valuable skill? Oh, hell yeah. Like it's right up there in the very beginning. Like that's in my puppy stages, right? So and it's
a foundational skill, actually.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. So I'm not taking any worth away from anything. I'm just narrowing down so many damn D's. So diversion is a new one for me. That's the one that you've added. And when I'm listening to definitions, oh my gosh, it's terrible. It's kind of like have you ever played Slug Bug?
Yes.
I feel like that's what this is right now. I'm so sensitive to that letter now. Stacy, have you played Slug Bug? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I've never
Every time you see a Volkswagen
wagon
Beetle,
bug.
Oh, and you hit the person next to you.
Yes,
Yes.
right. So I don't know where these
got it.
violent games come from, but it's kind of, or it's like Popeye when you see a headlight that's out, you're supposed to hit somebody.
It's like from
so
the
it's like all
80s,
these things. Yeah, right.
Right? We used to like
When we
So-
didn't have really cool phones or DVD players to entertain us in the
we
car.
would just hit the person next to us.
Yeah.
And
So once you become aware of something, all of a sudden that's all you can hear now. So every time I hear that letter, I'm like, I'm sensitive now.
I totally get that now. I just was like, I didn't have a name to the thing. Yeah.
So here's my issue with diversion. Here's the definitions this is why I was asking specifically for definitions to help me understand. So distraction is preventing the dog's full attention on the task. Diversions are diverting their attention. The difference that you've outlined is that you feel that diversions are intentional for the most part, and distractions are unintentional for the most part.
Yep.
Why can't we just say diversions? Because the definition of diversions is diverting attention. And
Because
that's
it's
what
lumping.
distractions do, whether they're intentional or not. I think the original 4Ds should have been diversion instead of distraction.
So in reality, I'm just trying to think about in reality in training that
I
see
wish
them-
everybody could see Robin's face.
Yeah, I know. She's like,
This is the part about podcasts that are going
I know.
to lose.
We can see each other's faces. And you know, I always wonder, like, is it when you look up to the left or look up to the right? I know.
That was like a true Muppet face, though. I loved it. It was like, that was a
I was
Sesame Street
thinking
moment.
very hard.
I know you were. I could smell it.
right? Like the brain is like gonna smoke. I'm
Sorry,
just
Stacy.
trying to think about. So I go back to the fundamental concept of training that we don't want to lump, right? We want to split out as much as possible.
But we don't
And-
overcomplicate either.
No, but between 5 or
But
6,
remember,
or 12.
humans are complicated.
But I think it really helps us to kind of think about those things in two different ways, because you've got the unintentional and you have intentional. And I think from a competitive detection perspective, right? We often train for one or the other. And I think it's important to think about how do you layer them on together, right? So that's why I like them split out. I like to be able to layer them or split them out depending upon the, I'm trying to come up with a D, but I can't come up with a D right now, but the purpose, right?
Serves you right.
I know, right? Right.
The directive.
The direction.
Oh.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah. She's like the ninja of the D. And so
And this will be our first merch show. We have our
big D, just a big D. We're going to call ourselves the big D's.
the days of detection.
There you go.
So depending upon the purpose of what you're trying to do, you may want to flex one or the other. And I just like the aspect of splitting it out, which is actually why I like the discrimination aspect as well, because it is all about splitting out how you train. With what we're trying to do, it's already so lumpy just in general. And because people don't understand the way they set hides, how that affects their dog's behavior and how their dog's current searching behavior and future searching behavior. So if we can give them the tools, now the tools come down to the Ds, right? If you can think about when you do your training session and you're thinking about how you set your hides, if you think about those Ds, it will help you to make those training decisions, right? Your training decisions in a way that splits that out into small enough increments that then makes learning very easy for the dog. So that's why I'm in my brain, I'm erring on the side of like 6 Ds versus like 3.
I, as an instructor and an evaluating official, right? I see so many people try and lump so many criteria together. Oh, let's put out this new hide. Let's do a really difficult problem. Let's do all of this stuff. And then all of those things have to get layered on. And then, oh, by the way, I'm going to throw out 5 empty jars out in this thing, or I'm going to put some gloves out in this particular area, or, oh, hey, on the way here, I picked up a dead squirrel. And so we're going to take this thing that is not natural to that environment. Yes, it's natural to a environment, which might be 5 miles away.
Right.
That, if we're working a roadside, the dog may not even look at because it's part of that natural environment. But if I pick it up and put it out here, it's actually smells. It's a baked potato. It smells exactly right. And plus it's got fresh human odor all over it.
Right.
And then you get people who are like, oh my gosh, but your dog should be able to discriminate between that and its target odor. Well, then put it in an odor recognition training exercise.
Because it's not a discrimination exercise at that point.
Right. And so, yet ideally, yes, a fully fluent dog should be able to walk the odor, but we're training.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the reason why, I took Brava, circling back, right? I took her out of the park pavilion and put her at the Home Depot.
But because you needed to knock the rust off of some other stuff before you threw a monkey wrench in the rest of it.
Exactly. And I think people also, so getting back to the splitting versus lumping, which by the way, I think we should do another podcast on that.
Okay.
But the splitting versus lumping is that it is okay to take now she is a very high level dog, right? She has a summit level title, which is the highest accomplishment you can achieve in her sport. This is a dog that already has that level title. And I decided to reduce the complexity of the search by knocking down the distraction level. So I think it's, so what I want to say is that it's okay to flex regardless of you can't say, oh, the dog's fluent. She's got a summit title, right? But maybe in that moment, she's got a little rust on her, right? We got a little Rust-Oleum out there trying to whack that crap off of there, right? So in the moment, she wasn't fluent. So fluency, getting back to a lot of our conversations about fluency, is not necessarily a state. Maybe it kind of fluxes a little bit. And it's really okay that regardless of how advanced your dog or how advanced you think your training is on your dog, that you still have to flex that stuff.
I totally agree.
Yeah. And that was the reason I'm like, you know what? This dog pee over there and whatever the kid ate that's on the ground now next to this picnic table where I put 2 hides that were converging that you usually can do is totally overwhelming you right now. So let's get you in some place where there's no dog pee and there's no, leftover cake on the ground.
Right.
I'll bring out your cod skins to make it really, really worth it for you. Which are better than minnows, by the way.
Oh.
Now, you did talk about overwhelming the dog, right? And you talked about being an effective instructor. And I teach high school art, right? So I have a whole variety of learning styles and skills and abilities and levels. And I think with that, my default, I tend to go to, I want to know all the things. I want to be as educated as possible and be as prepared as possible. And clearly I can't know everything, right? But then I think my job is to parse down that information in such a clear, concise way and provide it to my students in a way that they can remember it and then be able to apply it. So I think that's why here's a D word, default is to minimize the amount of Ds. So I will say that I think that is where I come from. And so when I originally learned the 3 Ds, right, because difficulty wasn't part of it, it was distance, distraction, duration. I mean, that's been what I've known for 10 years. Then I heard someone mention difficulty and I thought, oh, yeah, no, I need to add that. Like that's imperative to what I want to do. Through this conversation, I feel like if I didn't know about any of the Ds, what I would walk away with wanting to have is the clarity for myself of being able to remember something. And so I think I would keep it with distance, duration, diversion, and difficulty. Because within my diversion, I know that I can do things intentionally and unintentionally. And I know that the word diversion is diverting. So anything that's diverting my dog's attention is put into that for me. and it just helps me remember it, right? So if I was to reinvent this list, and that would make sense for me, which would then, I think, help me make sense to my students. So take it or leave it. I think that's where my brain is coming from. But I think that's also, high school kids.
So you make a really great point here. And this comes down to takeaways, right? So the takeaway is, what is best for you to think about how to split out what you train or what you teach your dog? And whether or not it's 3Ds, 4Ds, 5Ds, 6Ds, 12Ds, whatever, right? Because the whole purpose of this is to help you to understand how to split out those behaviors. I think it doesn't necessarily matter if it's 4 or 5 or 6, whatever, but whatever it is that works for you, that helps you to think about how to split out, how to train something that's very complicated. I mean, this is a very complicated activity. I mean, there's a whole lot of science in here, the whole run the gamut, right? I think that's important. Now, I still like 6Ds, but if you want 4, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And like I said, I just don't want to overwhelm myself with remembering too many, right? Because even
That's
just,
totally cool
right.
too.
So I like that you bring that up.
And it's absolutely correct that you have to have different ways of thinking about this, because how it makes sense to me and teaching it and sending students home, when I explain it one way as a distraction versus another way as a diversion, something may click.
Right.
Right. And I'll be honest, I don't care.
Right.
Yep.
As long as you're deliberate
Yes.
on how you set up your training.
Yep.
Because that is the biggest thing that I see people, let's just throw out hides. Let's just run the dogs, right? We need to check off our 16 hours and just get it done. And especially in the early stages of training where you're not fluent, you're barely at that competent or that proficient level, and you're working towards fluency. So I agree with, if it works better for 4Ds and one of them's diversions and you have diversion A or diversion definition B, rock on.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess my dilemma, I've been digging through this dialogue and trying to decipher the definitions and the purpose of the different Ds, distractions, diversions, distance, discrimination, difficulty, I'm digressing here. It dawned on me that you guys are very dedicated to defending your Ds. And I cannot deny that you need to do what works for you, because you are the dames of detection.
And you just dropped that mic like,
oh my gosh. And it's like running from the burning building.
oh
That's my takeaway.
You know what? I think we will just leave that right there as the takeaway.
But my problem here, honestly, what I'm hungry for now, I want to know how you guys do this. I want to know where you put in these Ds, right? So we've kind of talked about them, but I want to know in detection world. So I kind of want to talk about these Ds again and another one, because I want to know how you thoughtfully set up your distractions and your difficulty. And, so I think that's what I'm hungry for now, is some things that I can use in the field.
Really, like a really dedicated.
Oh.
Something I can digest,
I love it.
Oh my goodness. So we'll put that on the D list.
Put on.
Yes. Which is kind of like maybe a punch list. I don't know. For us to maybe talk about in subsequent podcasts, and we can create a D's of detection playlist.
Sounds great.
I kind of like Dames of Detection. I'm going to call you all that.
Awesome.
Now.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, I think that's all of us, right? Because we're all.
So if you want to get really darn good
Oh,
freebies. I just couldn't come up with like the
Yeah.
really darn good freebies
Delightful.
Around
Delightful
the D's.
right? Make sure that you go out to our website, caninedetectioncollaborative.com.
That's K, the number 9.
Okay, the number 9, detectioncollaborative.com, and sign up, and then you'll get those delightful deliveries in your email inbox. That will give you those freebies and all the other delicious. I don't know. I'm coming up with the crazy D words. Anyway, we
anyone listening at this point's got to be deaf.
Absolutely. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining us. Today was brought to you by the letter D. And
Enjoy the number 4.
Six.
4.
6. 12. Good night, guys.
Canine Detection Collaborative.
We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.